Okay, so in today's class, what we will do, we will try to use the integration procedure again, and this time we will use the optimization purpose. I mean, all these basically three backend server actions, we will move to the integration procedure, and we'll compare the performance, like how it is improving the performance or not, right? But before that, let's first check the current integration, I mean, current procedure, whether it is working and how much time it is taking, right? Then we will move. Well, in usually in 13 class, after the class 13, all the basics will be cleared, and after class 14, I will usually start the EPC part. But I think I need one more lecture because couple of topics are left. So maybe I will try to schedule a call on this weekend, or let's do one thing. Let's do it on Monday. Okay, one lecture and then we can start with the EPC. Okay, so yeah, let's use Acme, and here we need to type the name manually. Why? Because we have updated the definition of this name to 12, right? That's why it is not showing. So let's do this manual changes. Here we need to pass the DOB to run the backend logic, right? And here let me type one email. And then, yeah, you can use the debug and clear the logs and then check. The moment I do the next, you will see first thing it will fire is the remote action, then email, and then it lastly it is firing the integration procedure, right? So all those three things it is sequentially doing and then updating the status back here, right? And yeah, this is the thing that the server is doing. And after this stage, you will see there is a account name, it is action details. It is not showing. Step 3. Let's check the JSON. Mm. Okay, so what we will do, we will club all those three actions into a different data vectors, sorry, integration procedure. So let's do that. But before that, let me check why it is not showing the detailed information. So here it is a set value. Okay, actually we are not, I think, passing the correct value to this name field. Let me change this back to the text search. Creation procedures, search account name. Yesterday it was working. Let's do it now. Okay. Yeah, so name and number, these are null, I can see. And the data that it is returning, let's check there. It is not returning anything. We are passing Acme. Instrument test here once. Here it is returning. Okay, I will check that offline. Maybe some configuration is changed. Anyways, yeah, that's why I usually suggest not to make changes on this script. All right, so let's back to the topic. Let's create a different integration procedure. Okay, we do it. Okay, let's name it OS. Well, type will be OS because it is doing the optimization of Omni scripts, and subtype maybe we can write controller here. Now let's save it. Okay, it's created a ID in the backend. Now what we need to do is all the elements that we have used here. So let's say we have used a data wrapper, remote action and email action, right? So all we need to drag here. Okay, first we need to use a data wrapper, and then it is data wrapper post action, right? Yeah, so let's use the same data wrapper post action, then remote action, and then email action. Okay, and since we have dragged it, so we actually, since we already have those actions here, we don't need to create it manually, right? How we can do it? We can simply go click it, click on the either JSON, copy the JSON, go there, come back and replace the JSON. Okay, once you do it, just compare your feeds, whatever you're controlling here is updated correctly or not. Here we are, the main features that we actually doing in the post section is what is the label name and what is the basically data wrapper or the data wrapper interface we are calling. Just make sure it is updated correctly, because see, most of the time, since the both elements are the same, but sometimes what happen, there is a there is a difference. Let's say, let's talk about it. Let's say, since there is a element name, right, and there is also a label name, since this is all backend, so there is no element, right? There is you can say there is a different user messages also, so there is no such option available if you deal with the same component in the integration procedure, because in integration procedures it is to be considered that you are not gonna make any changes that are responsible for the UI, so those option will not be listed here. So let me let's discuss about the other, and then I will tell you what additional things that we need to perform here. So say this is the remote action, right? Let's do the same thing. Go to the remote action, copy paste JSON back here. Now you will see in remote action, there are options like remote options, extra payloads, right? And send response. In our remote action, what we have done is we are not passing any extra payload. We are passing the entire information from this account this JSON tree, right? Account block 2 and date value, right? This is the value that we are passing, and this is how we have casted this thing, right? But if I compare this with this remote action, here you will see there is no such component available called send and response transform. Okay, yeah, it is available. Actually, if we configure this thing from extra payload, so there is no option where we can actually do extra payload here, right? There's no node for extra payload here. Why this is so? Because extra payload is something which we pass in additionally after the send response, right? Let's say if we don't have any this value from the JSON tree, then we use extra payload to send that additional information. But in the integration procedure, they already give you this option, right? So you just need to check this checkbox and add your extra payload directly here. So this is the first change that you need to take care, because since in if you use remote action inside OmniScript, you have option to configure your extra payload, but here there is no option. So all those settings that you, those extra payload that you're passing in key value pair, you need to define those things under this section. Okay, additional input output failure response. Okay, and you need to check that, and then you need to define those things directly here. So that's the first thing you need to change. Second thing is, in most of the cases, mm, let's go and take a preview. We need account detail and date value. Okay. In most of the cases, we don't define. See, inside the OmniScript, if you want to, let's say, want to use this value, date VAL, you don't need to define step node, which is account, right? If you define block 2 and date value, it will work, right? Because in generally, OmniScript consider this is as a UI element and they will not enforce you to use this in that way. If your information coming from account, you can directly use account and date value, or you have defined account under this, you can do that. But the entire full path you don't need to take care here. But that's the second change that you need to do. If you're working in an outside word, if you're not working, if you want to refer something which is coming from your OmniScript outside, then you need to give the full path. That means the entire JSON that is available here, because after this stage, after this JSON that OmniScript created, after this block, any other logic cannot define which is the UI element and which is the actual element, right? In that case, we need to consider the full path, which is this account block 2 and its value. Okay, here if I try to access this value, I can directly use account date value. I don't need to explicitly write block 2. It will work for us. No error or nothing will do in that case. But the same thing, if I want to access outside OmniScript, it will not work, because there it will not understand whether this block 2 is a UI element or it is something, a functional element. OK, so make sure you will give you whenever you work outside, you need to give the full path here. OK, same goes for email as well. Email action. OK, edit, copy. So that's a luxury actually. We don't need to. Yeah, uh, we don't need to manually type those things again, because we can edit the JSON response directly here. You will see it will automatically taken care of all those things, right? But again, here also you need to give the full path. Okay, the best practice says even if you work on an OmniScript or any other configuration, you always need to give the full path, right? So that's why you already give account in block 2 and then access those values. You also need to follow the same thing. If even for a random manner, we if because let's say we have already configured account and then after then we introduce block 2. In that case, we usually what we do, we will again drop those things inside it and we don't change the JSON, right? In OmniScript it will work, but again if you refer those metadata, those JSON outside, it will not work. So ideally we should always give the full path even if we are inside the OmniScript or outside it. Okay, now what I have done is I have dragged all those components and here it is looking fine. Now let's go back to the script and now we need to deactivate it, right? So just click on the deactivate checkbox and uncheck this active thing. And here again, we need to drag a integration procedure. OK, for a moment, I'm just deactivating this integration procedure as well. And here we just need to call the this integration procedure. And before that, we need to activate it. OK, because without activation, it will not be available for external users. You will see the OS controller is there. I have used, I think I already communicated that the identifier of this integration procedure is not this name. That's why I use it like that only, right? It is this, okay? Type underscore subtype, type underscore subtype. Okay, so this way you can see the integration procedure will be called. Now, if you go and take a preview, clear on the cache. Clear the log. Okay, you will see there is just one node got created. Okay, something went wrong. Attempt to defer a null object. Let's check what is this. And again, it is having the same problem as well, because we are treating we have not configured any payload here, like which specific node we want to refer. So that's why in the log you will see it is sending the entire data, like all those previous nodes. So whenever we drag a integration procedure, this is something we need to take care. Okay, so that is why it is sending you the entire data of the JSON. Now let's check what is this doing. And yeah, before you actually call an integration procedure, there is an option to debug it also. Let's do that first. So yeah, need to clear it. You need to run your Omni script up to that level where your integration procedure is there. Okay. After this next step, my integration procedure will run. That means I need to configure everything in this stage only. So you can configure ECME and all those things like date of birth. Okay. Email. I think this part I have not added. Before you actually activate your integration procedure in OS, you need to do up to this level, and then you need to copy the entire JSON. Okay, go to the integration procedure, click on the preview, click on edit JSON and paste the JSON. Okay, and then click on execute. This way you will be make suring that all the operation that your integration procedure is doing is working fine here. Okay, you can now check the individual logs also, right? What is your data raptor post action is returning? There's no error, right? It is returning fine. Then you can check what is the error into the email action. You can also check that. Based on the selection, you can also check other things also, right? So once you will get the clarity, okay, my integration is working, and what is the total time it is taking? Okay, this is the total time it is taking. And if you think, yeah, this is fine, all things are done properly, then you can actually go and use it, right? So let's do it here. Let me also clear the cache and click on the next button. Okay, you will see the integration procedure has successfully run and it returned the response also. Okay, and the request also. Since why it is not returning anything, can you tell me? There's no error, but still the integration procedure is not returning anything.
Maybe inputs are wrong.
No, inputs are fine. The reason why it is not returning, because we have not configured the return option here. And what is the return option?
Data, what is that? Response action. Yeah.
Response action. We need to drag response action, then only integration procedure is able to return anything back to the server. So that is something that we always need to take care. Okay, we have to configure the return option. Otherwise, you will see there is no error. It will always say no error. Okay, error will be okay, and integration result will be null. The moment you see integration result is null, that means you have not configured anything into the return response. Okay, so that is something that we need to manually configure whenever we run such actions. Otherwise, it will not gonna return anything. So what parameter? And yeah, you can go back here in the preview. You can now actually check what thing you need to feed back to the system. Okay, now go to the property. Email action is the last attribute. This is the remote action. This is the data raptor email action, and this is the remote action that we have called. And after that, we have called this integration procedure. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's also configure the same integration procedure here also, and then feedback to this Omni script and show the response. Okay. Or we can also do one thing. We can feedback the existing response, which whatever the this node is sending remote action. Okay. So you can go to the remote action. What is the name here? Remote action one. You can see the execution sequence, all three run successfully. That means no exception, right? And I think remote action, we don't have any node that it created basically. Maybe, yeah. We can check this into debug full log. Here you will see it is returning the all data. Debug, okay, all things are fine. So yeah, let's do one thing. Let's go there and add a response section. For that, we need to deactivate that. Add a response section. Inside response section, we need to use the key pair. Oh, I used the remote action. Here we can use status. This status put 100. And we can now return remote action. Okay. And like I was saying in the last class, the identifier is remote action 1. So we only need to send this information like that only. Where is that? Oh, here we need to do. Okay. We will send whatever it is returning back to the yeah, back to the server. So let's do it. Now, if you run this script, let's clear the cache and run it again. Now, before you do the next, click outside. In generally, the moment you do the change, it will update the JSON, but sometimes it expect us to make a click, then it will update. So that's why just click outside somewhere, copy this path, go here, paste it, and click on execute. There you will see the remote action is returning 16 as a age, right? So that is what we actually need to feed back to the system. Now, if you check this, and here you will see we have restricted the path to only send the age. So let's remove it so that it will send the age category also, and then do the execute again. Okay, now you will see inside remote action value, it is sending all these nodes. And now let's go back to the OmniScript and check what step we actually need. We need this inside the we need this inside step 3, right? And step 3, we need to name it step 3. So what we can do, we have two options, right? At this level, since we are actually configuring this option, so here we can name this remote action 3. Sorry, this is the, since we are configuring this option here, we can rename remote action 1 to step 3, or we can cast it to treat it as a step 3. Okay. Right. Same thing that we did in the last classes. We have two options always. We can go and rename those steps, or we can change the definition of this remote action well. Okay, so those things we can actually configure. So let's do that first, since we are inside this mode, debug only mode. So this time in the response action, we can go and change the definition directly here. Instead of creating it a response action when, we can consider it as a step 3. Okay, now if I take a preview, execute it, you will see it is returning everything inside this step 3. Now we need to activate it. Okay, and then we need to fire it. This time when we fire, you will see there will be some return response also. So if you clear the cache, okay, if you do the next, you will see the age category and age is calculated, and this value is coming from the integration procedure. Okay, similar ways, if you have other information like account details and all, you can again go at the response, edit it and cast it accordingly, right? Let's say whatever response that we want to display in account field, and we want to configure this remote action also here, not remote action, integration procedure. Here again, we need to drag integration procedure, cast the response accordingly and send back. This time it will also send this in node also. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so the key point that you need to take care is whatever feed that you're returning, you need to use it under response action. You need to cast your JSON, and it should be the exact match of your OmniScript or any external system that you're using. Here we have a dependency on two outputs. One is the remote action output. Second is the integration procedure action. Okay, I have deactivated this because if I configure, it will take some time to configure this. I leave this up to you. You just need to go here. You will see integration procedure actions. You need to drag it and just go here, edit the JSON, paste it there. And if we have configured anything into, I think we have not configured any. Yeah, we have configured this extra payload, right? This extra payload, you will not get any option here to configure extra payload. Okay, you need to configure this under this structure. Send yeah, here additional input output failure. Here you need to check this checkbox, and here you need to give the extra payload. Okay, just check this, do it by yourself. If you have any questions, then let me know, I will answer that. Okay, so this is about calling integration procedure from any integration procedure, and this is this. Now we have discussed 3 use cases of integration procedure. One is to make a call out, second is to expose the API, third is to optimize the performance. There is also some other use cases also. Let's discuss about those use cases. So in our integration procedure, let's go back. In integration procedure, there's something called invoke mode. This is a bit important. Okay, just just focus here. So see, invoke mode is, let me actually give you first a real example. M1 Telecom. In most of the cases, whenever, let's talk about Salesforce first, as a developer, forget about velocity for a moment. Let's say we want to create a functionality which makes email call out. Okay, we want someone to make an email call out, and then we want to do a age calculation. This is the two things we need to do. Now let answer me this. Do we need to make email call out under the same transaction, or we can break the transaction? In most of the time, we don't need to do the email callouts or sending the email functionalities in the same iteration, in the same transactions. Why? Because sending email doesn't require any feedback, right? You just trigger the email and user will get the email. You don't need to send something back to your Visualforce page, LWC or Aura. Right, whenever we call a email trigger functionality, we never returns anything back to the server or in any thing from the UI. Once we call it, we just display your email is sent successfully. right? This is the one thing. Second thing is business sometimes doesn't require to trigger the email at the same transaction, which is after clicking on send button. There is very rare scenario that business will say, I need immediate email. Okay, they are okay to get receive emails within 10 seconds, 15 seconds. That means we can configure email functionality in async mode. Okay, clear? So this option, that whatever we have configured in integration procedures, there is a problem actually. Let me first talk about this problem. Previously, we have made 3 server calls. Okay, but these 3 calls are made in 3 different transactions. That means the Salesforce governor limits will also break at 3 points. Okay, this will make another call. That means it will take that all the calculation, all the things that we are doing will be countered in a different limit. This will again counter in a different limit, and this will again counter in a different limit. But now we have clubbed all these 3 backend action into one. That means all those I mean all those transaction will be counted again one governor limit. Getting my point? So whenever you work on an integration procedure, you have to make sure which operation you need instant results and which operation you can make in future mode. Okay, since we have one option which is email action, this is something you will see and you will get, okay, this is something we can make on future, because we have in the UI path, we don't have any node that needs information from this remote action. So we can convert it into future mode. That's first thing you can think about. Second thing is you can also think, since there's no configuration or there's no dependency of email action, we can make it future. Second thing is, let's say, okay, integration procedure is doing something into the backend, and once we click on the next button after before we go into the step 3, let's say there is a delay. Now let's talk about that scenario here. This is a different page. One, yeah, this. Now just observe the UI first, and then I will explain you what I'm trying to, which point I want to make. Here, this is the, let's say this is the user selection. I click on next button. Instantly, it will load the UI, then it will load the data. Getting it? Let's do it again. Here you will see the UI is blocked. As a user, I can't do anything until this spinner went away. Now spinner went away. This is the first experience. Okay. Second experience is I click on this next button. There is a lag on displaying those icons, but my page instantly loaded. Okay. My page got loaded. After this, server feed those icons. Third is I click again, nothing happened. Although all this information is pre-filled for me. And when I select a number and then I do the next, now again my UI is blocked. So let me open the notepad. We have 3 things. One, UI blocked. Okay. 2, UI not blocked, but elements are not in the page. Okay. Third is UI blocked and then info loaded. Okay. This is the 3 options that we can configure. Now tell me, in integration procedures, we have, if you have this kind of structure, which this is the requirement, which invoke mode we need to use. Obviously, we need to use the second point. That means, since let's refresh and do it again. This one we can't use because it is taking so much time to load the page. We don't want our user to hold and go back and check those things, right? It's related. Right, this one we don't want. We want instantly to open the next step the moment user click on the next button, right? It is broken. Yeah. Okay. We want this option. When I click on next, I want the UI and then I am okay to fill the information. Okay, so let's see how we can control this option in our integration procedures. This all is controlled by invocable mode, default, non-blocking and fire and forgot. Let's talk about all those three. Default means the normal behavior that you have experienced. That means first it will make a server call, then load the UI. Okay, next option is no blocking. That means it will first load the elements. Okay, and sorry, it first it will load the DOM, which is the HTML elements, and then it will fetch the server action that you are doing, right? The third option is fire and forgot. That means it will not wait to return any response in the JSON format. It will simply show the UI. Let's actually explore this, then it will be more clear. Just now observe the preview mode in terms of that loading. Okay, I did the next. Nothing happened. I am now filling the information. Okay. Now I hitting the next button. See, there is a spinner. And then the information loaded. The moment the information loaded, it is already pre-filled. Okay. Now going back and changing it to non-blocking. Okay. Now let's observe the difference. I'm making Acme, hitting the next button. Okay. Now I'm clicking on the next. Let's see. The moment I click next, instantly the page loaded. After that, the information is fetched. Okay. You have got the difference. Why we need to use this? Let's say we have clicked on, user needs to click on next and then they want to populate some value manually. At the same time, we also want the server to fill some information. In that case, there is no point to block the UI because user can't even go the next button until they fill some manual efforts or they need to verify something, right? In that case, you will see the non-blocking option. Okay, let's go back and check it again. Then you will see this non-blocking option. The next option is fire and forgot. You can imagine fire and forgot as a void statements in your method. That means the method will do the job, but it will not return anything. And it will also not block the UI. Let's do that. Here we need to use Acme. Click on next. Now I'm using the name of, sorry. Using date of birth. Okay. Now I'm doing the next. Page instantly loaded, but nothing returned back to the interrogation procedure. Why? Because we have used fire and forgot. That means it will send the email. It will also do the calculations, but nothing, it will feed back to the system. If you go the debug, and in this operation, you will see in the response, it is having all this information, right? Age, category and everything, but nothing is loaded back to the page. Why? Because we have used the fire and forgot option. Okay, clear? The difference is is the invoke mode clear? This is important thing actually. Whenever you configure integration procedures, you have to take care about this. Integration procedures is something which whenever we configure, we have to think so many times. Okay, what things we need to do? First, we need to think how many actions we gonna run and what are the total server call it is making. Even in the worst scenario, let's say it is making a server call and there are, let's say, 20,000 data into the Salesforce. We have made some where clause and all. After this also, we will verify how much time it is taking. Okay, because sometimes what I faced is even you have used limit one and you have used the where clause also, but in the back end, if there are so much records, your query will throw query timeout exceptions, right? So for those cases, even you have configured this thing well in an integration procedure, but still this information will fail because in integration procedure you have also running n number of logics at the same time. So you're actually at the same time, it is a trade-off. You are doing all those things to improve the performance, but you also need to make sure whatever you are doing is not a very heavy task. Okay, if it is a heavy task, then let's talk about what we need to do. Let's say we have something which is really huge and we need to do that, then how we can actually do it and how we need to handle that. Let's talk about that. Okay, is it clear? Can we go ahead? Any questions on it? Guys, is it clear or you want me to repeat again?
Stay for me.
Okay, well, in this, so many interview questions are also asked. How we will handle this, how we'll handle that. So we have handled one functionality where we have clubbed all the backend element to one. Now the next question they will ask, let's say they have 50,000 record into one object. Let's say account object have 1 lakh record, let's say. Okay, and in that 1 lakh record, you are making a SQL call. And even you are retrieving one record only, then how you will make sure that system will not compromised with any limit, any governor limit. Okay, so let's talk about that. But before this, we need to discuss one option. We need to discuss LWC. Why? Let me tell you. This there is a new functionality that Velocity implemented. They call it action. Okay, but action block, actually action block is not there in VF pages because it is an advanced technology. It needs the ECMAScript 7 support, and in VF page we don't have ECMAScript 7. So in that case we need to switch our current OS to enable it for LWC. So what I will do, I will create another version, and for this version I'm not enabling LWC. For that version I will enable it. Okay, so I think I have clicked on activate. Okay, let's deactivate it. What is the name of count search? Count search. Okay, and let's create another version. Okay, now append LWC. Let's say this is something old that you have created, and like I was saying, the new enhancement, whatever Velocity is doing, they are not enabling this for this classic LWC, classic Velocity page. You need to switch to the LWC environment. So for that, you just need to click on this LWC. Okay, now see, whenever we click on LWC, there is some misconceptions also. Enabling LWC doesn't mean anything gonna change in the UI as a user. That will remain the same. Okay, if you have used the new port version, the UI will remain the same there. Okay, but when the moment you click on LWC, you will see two preview options. One is the classic preview, which is this. Second is the LWC preview, which you obviously took time to load. Yeah. Let it load. So yeah, those are the options that you will see. Second is, even you have enabled the LWC, you can still work on this VF page. Okay, you don't need to switch to the new version, but and also those uh, elements will also get enabled for you if you want to use. Okay, you can drag and use it, no problem. But it is purely subjective, which UI you are preferring. Whether now, since you have enabled LWC, now you can also switch to the LWC designer. But again, as a user, it will not make any change. The only thing is it will slow down the load and probably took more time to load the page. Let's switch back to the LWC designer. You just need to click on this. How I do it, basically, I still prefer the this VF page option. I will tell you why. But again, it is subjective. It is not written anywhere in this stone. Like you also need to follow this. Let me duplicate the tab. Okay, let me open it in a different window. Maybe account search LWC. You will also see this LWC enable checkbox. Okay. First time when you do it, it will took additional time because I think it try to maintain cache and all. So here you will see the observe the difference, right? In this preview mode, this is like that, and in LWC preview, it is like that. Okay, now if I go back and try to open. Well, it is not working. Yeah, it opened. Okay, thank God. So see, let's talk about this UI first. You will see, let me also compare this with the old UI, which is this. Previously, we have uh, the control on three main elements, right? One is the controller part, which is available components where we need to drag which element we want to use. Second is the structure, which basically tells what is there in your page. And next one is the controller, where we need to configure the options of those properties, right? But in LWC, they have slightly changed this option. First is you can see this part. Let's talk about this. It will show you two options. One is all the elements are listed in your UI, okay, including the deactivated elements. You can see those grayed areas because we have deactivated them. Okay, you can also check them in a uh, that manner. I mean, they will also show you the UI. Like this is the email action. So you will see the email action. It is a remote action. You will see this cloud, and since it is a data wrapper, it is showing the database option. Similar ways for any step which is a UI element, you will see the different steps. Okay, this section will also show you the complete diagram, whatever elements you have used in the UI or as a backend element. Okay, this bigger part, it will only show the active elements. Okay, that like you see here, integration procedure is activated and then step 3 is there, but those two option, which is remote action and email and this integration procedure is deactivated, it is not listed here. Okay, now whatever we have in the control available component section, you can see those are here: actions, displays, functions, group, input, and omniscripts. All those which was there, now they have listed there. There's also setup, which is nothing but your script configuration. Okay, this is script configuration you will find in the setup. All those options are already available. Whatever you can do here, you can still do those things here directly. Okay, now the good part of this omniscript is they given us a very useful feature. Let's say we want to talk about remote action, right? Let's say this is something we want to talk about, or let's talk the same thing. display function group. There's no action block in this. You will see action block inside remote option, but not sure why it is not showing here. Inside group, there's a block, edit block, type head block. That's strange. Let me quickly check in a different org. Actually, action block is not listed. Let me check if it is there in the classic mode. Just a second. So they have not given the action block in this org. Okay, I will check why the action block. Maybe definitely it's I need to create a case then to Salesforce. There's an action block actually. This action block is useful for making async calls. Due to some reason, I think they have not listed here. Let me try to access the another org. Just a second. Let me stop the share. Just a second. Normally, this is first time I'm seeing that they have removed the action block from a org completely. So I'm just checking one default. I have opened the different org actually now. So just checking if there they have given the action block. If none of these both org is having an action block, I will share one org which is having the action block. Okay. Let's first check it. Let me try, meanwhile, let me also try to create one. Mm, just a second. Let me stop share and open the different org which is having the action. Yeah, see here you will see the action block. I'm not sure why it is not listed here. If I check this, it is there in the groups. It's not there, but it is there. That's strange. Anyways, so see, I will share this. I will check in the different the two orgs that are shared with you. I will check in both of them. If action block is not there, I will create another one, or I will share this org itself. Right. So see, the purpose of action block is to do the async calls. Okay, you can control all up to three backend elements you can use inside the action block, and all those three elements you can control, and you can make it either sync or async. Okay, so the purpose of action block is that same. And in the UI, like in this LWC enabled UI, you have this option, which is icon. If you click here, it will give you the entire description of that particular component. Okay, and this is not for this. You can, if you have any questions or you're not sure what is this is used for, they will give you the entire description. Okay, you can also check all those things directly there. And if you try to open it, it is nothing but a document.velocity.com page. Okay, and those pages are, if I open it anonymously, you will see those are now open source. Okay, once after acquiring Velocity, Salesforce try to make those closed domains as treat as open source. Now you can actually read all the things that we have discussed here. You can directly go and check those things directly. Okay, you don't need to access the success.velocity.com for viewing the doc.velocity.com pages. I will share this link into LMS also. You can directly go and check those options, right? But even if you enable any component as LWC, you don't need to go to that level also. You just need to find which, let's say we want to discuss about, let's say you need some help on the calculation action. You just need to click here, it will load the information for you. Okay, and all those actions will also work. So it is, that is the very good advantage that I personally like. And yeah, if you need explanation, you can directly click, it will take you to the different page. Okay, so that's a very good option that they have provided us. But yeah, let's back to the today's topic, which is the action block. So let's talk about what this action block it does. This is a remote action. I'm not sure, someone else probably is using this. Okay, so let me check if whatever we are doing is there here or not. Just a second, let me open the same OmniScript. See, in normally when we use OmniScript, the name of the tab is OmniScript, right? Here the name is OmniScript Designer. Then you will see the exact OmniScript name here. So this is, I think, this one is that. Yeah, so there we have used the action block. See, what is the purpose of action block? Let's talk about it. Previously, let me compare this with the whatever we have created. So here we have called the integration procedure. Let me also open that integration procedure. The problem of integration procedure was again we have clubbed all those three backend elements into one, and now the governor limits will apply to all those three. So how we can actually avoid this is by using the action blocks. So what we need to first do, let's say this is the integration procedure that we have called. We need to click the it was activated, right? We need to deactivate it. Okay, this integration procedure is nothing doing the same thing. Whatever we have configured here, it is calling those three actions. We need to deactivate that. Then we need to whatever we have deactivated these two remote actions, these three remote actions, right? Remote action, email action, and the data raptor. We need to drag that data raptor inside the action block. Okay, you need to go to first. You need to go to the build, go to the groups, drag action block here. Okay, and inside that whatever those three elements that we have deactivated, you need to drag it in under that. Okay, let me delete that. Once you have dragged, now you have an option here, all those three options that we talked about, right? Default, non-blocking, fire and forward. Those options are here also, whatever we have in the integration procedures, this is also there. Now you have an option inside. If you click on this remote action, uh, if you use a conditional view, yeah, let's talk about the available elements here, and then we'll talk about that. If error, that means if you check this checkbox, let's say we have those three actions that we have configured inside it. Okay, and one remote action fire correctly, email action fire correctly, but there is some issue in the data raptor. In that case, it will not return anything to step 3 because it will block the transaction because there is some issue. So to override this, we need to check this checkbox, apply if any error. In that case, what it will do, it will use the try catch method, and whatever error, whatever step that found as an error, it will not block the entire transaction due to that error. Okay, whatever written from these two actions, it will feed those actions and feed back that to the next step. Okay, so that means your action will not get blocked. Next is the invoke modes. This is very similar that how we discuss. If it is default, that means all the transaction that we are doing, basically they will run in a sync mode and nothing will be changed. They will work like that only. If we make it as a non-blocking, that means what it will do, it will load the HTML and then it will load the data. And if we use fire and forward, that means it will load the HTML and it will not maintain any tree it will not update the JSON tree to feed back any information. Whatever the JSON that you have created, it will not do, but in the backend, it will update in the backend, it will do whatever you want, whatever logic you have configured, it will do that, but it will not bother anything back to the OmniScript level. Okay, next is this enable custom messages. That means if any exception happened, you need to type your own message. You can do that here. Next is this conditional view. Let's talk about it. So here we have this conditional view, right? We have this option where we can actually add the conditions directly here, right? They have made some advantage over the top of it. When you click on it, now you can actually use this thing like how we use it in the process builders. Okay, all there is a neat clean UI. You can also group them what condition you want. You can additionally add those condition inside any group, right? So those things you can control directly here. So instead of writing this thing manually here, we need to add groups and then we need to manually type this and those that, right? We can now control directly here. We can add group, all those conditions will be applied as and then we can modify those conditions. Okay, all condition may add any custom logics or you want to add, so all those things you can do. So it is, you can consider this as a more optimized solution. Okay, so this thing they have configured into the conditional block. Next thing, the big change after the help text is LWC component override. Previously, we have option to override component through HTML template ID, which is nothing but your Ajax support. Let me open one. I have not discussed this. because we want to discuss this in a couple of different sessions. So let me first give a look how it is looking, and then probably, yeah, in detail we will talk about it. So see, this the purpose of HTTP template ready is to improve the UI. Okay, and sometimes also we can do some backend logics on the top of it, right? So here it has these three supports: HTML, CSS, and edit. Okay, in HTML part, we will write our own HTML. Let's say we want to create our own table. In that case, here we need to write the table code. Okay, this is whatever your curly brackets you're seeing. This is nothing but the tree information. Whatever we have in a JSON tree, we can access those values like that only. We have a separate session, but I'm just giving you a reference. The purpose of the HTTP template ID is to improve the UI. Okay, but this was having some issue. What was the issue? Because it has support of JavaScript, which is Angular, and Angular is not, you can you I think you already know, Angular is not secure. There's a hijacks that we can do with the help of JS. So in ECMAScript 7 platform, we can't use Angular directly. So that's why, since this is LWC, that means it support ECMAScript 7, we can't use the HTTP templates here also. So so then since we don't have support, then how we will improve the performance is with the help of LWC components. Okay, now you don't need to take as a Salesforce developer. It was for me also, it was always difficult to understand those ng forms and all, because this is pure Angular, right? Whatever is someone who's good in Angular can only do a good development in terms of improving the UI. But since we have enabled the LWC, now we don't need to take care about Angular anymore. Whatever we can do with the help of LWC, we can directly define the components directly here, and it will work. Okay, in one class we will check these two, Angular and LWC, that we will discuss. The next thing is the internal nodes. Very similar like how we do the comment there, that you can also add the comment directly here. Okay, so these are the some things that your action block can perform. The problem with this action block is its limit. You cannot add more than 3 backend server actions inside this action block. Okay, it is restricted to up to 3 only. After this, you need to use the integration procedure. Okay, any questions on it?
What will be the actual use case of action block?
Action
In
block
real time.
actually, yeah, see, action block, the purpose of using action block is do to reduce the work of creating integration procedure. Because in integration procedure, integration procedure, you can imagine, is for big picture. If you have a very complicated requirement, then you will go and create an integration procedure. Okay, but let's say in our case we are making 3 server calls. Okay, and we want to improve the speed. In that case, we can directly use action block. Okay, and based on the selection, we can select whether we want to use non-blocking, fire forward, or default option. We don't need to take care about those additional efforts to create integration procedures and to handle any complex requirement, because this suits well in our requirement. Let's say this is the same thing you're doing. You're making a remote action, you're calling a email action, and then you're displaying something into the UI. And see, remote action and email action doesn't require to hold something, right? You don't want the user to hold their UI. The In that case, we have two options. First is you can go for integration procedure. Second is you can go for the remote action. If you use integration procedures, then that means integration procedures enable you options to control n number of things at the same time. But since our use case is not that, so we can directly create a action block. Inside the action block, we can drag whatever we have created, and then it will work fine. Also, we don't need to take care about the feedback, right? How we configure into the integration procedures, return response, we don't need to take care, because here it is part of your OmniScript itself. And all those changes that we actually do when we configure remote actions in integration procedure, those also we don't need to take care, because this is still part of your OmniScript. So they have improved the performance of OmniScript in terms of introducing the action blocks. Okay, so the dependency of integration procedure is reduced there. but it is very limited. Like I said, you can't use more than 3 actions inside that. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, in most of the cases, actually previously also when they have not given this option, we have to use this feature. Actually, when you actually work on a project and you have such requirement, when you have so much next, you cannot block users UI. That is the rule of thumb, because let's say if you have 10 steps and you start blocking the UI even for 1 second, user get frustrated why it is happening, because they have to click next 10 times and then they need to wait for it. At that time, saving 1 second is a big deal. In that case, we always need to go and create integration procedures just because we want to use non-blocking feature. This, considering this fact, and since we are using integration procedure, that means we also need to take care all the UI changes or the any, I mean, since you are using integration procedure, that means the information that you are feeding is coming from the OmniScript, and the information that is coming from the OmniScript is probably the data raptors. And if anyone change anything into the data raptor, that means then they also need to go to the integration procedure and change the tree. So it was very complicated at that time, even for a simple use cases. But here, that is the advantage. Everything into the one UI. If you change anything, you can directly change here itself. So that's why they have given the action block. So reduce our efforts to create unnecessary integration procedures. But that doesn't mean you the integration procedure is completely removed or you never need to use it. You have to use it on when you have more complicated UIs or complicated structures. In that case, you can use it. Okay. Rest, you can click here in this and then you can read the entire detail. It is having a very good description in more detailed manner. You can actually check what is the integration procedure, what are the default, you see all those things, default, fire forward, default values, right? This is very written in a very good manner. You can actually check all those things. Maybe some links probably you will see not working. So they are working on it. Maybe some links in this page you will see is not working, maybe because of that. Okay, you can actually read all those things. So yeah, this is about the action blocks. Okay, so what is next we need to do? See, this is first time I observed in any org that we have created, they have not enabled the entire component. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I will check if I will try to create one in another org and then see. If not, then I will share this org. This is the old, this is different batch actually, and this is org for those batches. So ideally I should not give access, but yeah, I will check if nothing is there, then I will share this access also. Okay. But yeah, there please change wisely. Again, create your own component with your name. Don't override others code. It will be problematic for them also. Okay. In today, we have reached to one weekend also. So I will create another assignment 2, and I have seen that there is a couple of questions in assignment 1 also. In this weekend I will answer those questions. I will also create the I will also create, I mean, if you have already created the community, then I will do all the assignment 1 into that, and then you can compare whatever you done and whatever I done there itself. Also, whatever questions you have written, I will also try to answer, and there's one more assignment that I will give, so just check on that also. The next class we will start with, yeah, there is some remaining topics also. We will first discuss about those remaining topics and then I will start introduce the EPC, which is communication domain. Okay. All right, thanks. And I'm sorry for making this class delayed because there's some issues I want to discuss. Otherwise, we will not complete this on time. Thanks for your patience. Yeah, let's meet on Monday. Thanks.
Thank you.